1, 2 test, microphone test. Gia Diva Cardia. How are we all? How are we all doing? Hope you're well on this. What date is it? Thursday the 12th of December. How could I forget? I'm wearing my Palestine scarf for those of you that aren't watching this, because I'm in the middle of. I'm actually partaking in a fast that started this morning. Well, you can start it whenever you like. But anyway, there's a thing called Hunger for Justice, and me and Janie are doing it now. We started our fast this morning. We had our breakfast this morning, and we finish it tomorrow morning. So it's a 24-hour fast. There are thousands of people. I think there's like 1,500 people all over Ireland doing it, which is fantastic. It's not much, let's face it, really. You know, giving up 24 hours worth of food is nothing compared to what's going on in Gaza, as we know, and we don't mean to imply anything other than that. But we're doing it, and if you want to donate, please do. If you get this, oh, for God's sake, where's my thing gone? Oh, pish. My computer's getting all fucky again. This is one of the reasons I don't do live streams at the gigs anymore. It's such a pain in the arse. It really is an absolute nightmare. All this software and these cameras and shit, it's just, and I've got to do it all myself, and then I've got to, let me just fix the camera. Stay with me. Get that sort of straighter. Yeah. You fix the camera, and then you got to do the research, and then it's just a nightmare. But there we go. I'm here now. So, as I was saying, we're doing the Hunger for Justice for Palestine to send some. There's 65,000 euros, I believe, raised so far. We have 100 euros here raised, 100 quid actually, at the house. Some of that money is actually from the time that we sold the chocolate bars, which is weirdly enough connected to food. Remember, we got the Gaza chocolate bars, so we sold those, and the extra money that we got after we paid for them, we're going to hand that over as well. So that's all good. So me and Janie are doing that. It's a 24-hour fast, no big deal. I don't mean to imply anything other than that. Just trying to raise some much needed money and bring some attention to the ongoing famine and genocide that's taking place across Gaza, and looks like going to be other parts of the Middle East now too. We'll get into that. That's what we're going to talk about. And then also on Saturday night, I'm playing a gig here at Jockkill with my other band, Madre Rua. So this is our first kind of official. We did a gig for the Save Lough Neagh campaign at the end of the summer there in August, and that was kind of our first official outing as a band, rather than just me with some of my musician friends. But this is sort of the first paid gig, such as it is, and then we're going to be doing another one, I think, in February, trying to get the American bar or to reply to me. Chris Roddy up there is terrible. I've sent him messages and he just doesn't reply, and the numbers are correct. I just don't know what the fuck's going on. He's actually getting on my nerves a wee bit, but regardless, wish he'd just reply to my messages, because I know he's getting them. And if he's not, sorry. And Chris, can you give us a gig in February? So there's that. And that gig on Saturday night is sold out. I think a couple of seats might become available, from what I understand. And if you think you would like to get those, let me know, and I'll get those held over for you. It's a sold out gig now anyway, so it's going to be great. And we've also got Santa Claus, or Daddy Nonolak, coming. He's going to tell us some stories, and he's going to be the support act. Not really. No one can no one can be a headliner over Santa Claus, surely. But you get my point. He's going on first. So there's that. So there we go. So let's get to it. Let's to the thing. Boom. There we go. So we're going to talk about Syria. The world is in an awful state, and we'll talk about Syria first, and then we're going to talk about Luigi Mangione, which is a guy that shot the chief executive of United Healthcare, which is an American healthcare providing company. They don't provide healthcare, they're an insurance agency. They're a middleman between doctors and patients. That's all they are. And their obviously we know the way insurance works. Insurance and everything is, their profit is basically, it requires them to deny service, basically. And in order for them to make profits, and the more of it they deny, the more profits they make. And why that is a thing in healthcare is disgusting. Yeah. What is going on here? Why is that should be muted? 1 2 1 2. Browser audio on. This should that should be working. This is what I mean. This tack is all fucky. I just it does my fucking head cleaning. So, what's happened in Syria? The Bashar al-Assad regime, and it was a regime, make no mistake about it, has fallen. But rather than jumping for joy, this is a fucking disaster. Much as, again, people like you and I may not have been fans of people like Colonel Gaddafi in Libya, but at the end of the day, it's not our fucking business. And we know that whenever the West tries to intervene in the name of trying to do nice things for gay people, or whatever fucking excuses they're using this time, it invariably ends up in a worse situation. The country gets pillaged for its natural resources, and then Europe is then faced with a migration crisis, which is completely manufactured and predictable, which then causes domestic turmoil in all the countries across Europe, including our own, this past year, as we've seen. And no good comes of it, apart from filling the bank accounts of the greediest fucking animals that have ever lived with more and more and more wealth, which is what this is all about. They don't care about the people in Syria, despite what they may say. They don't care about minorities in Syria, despite what they may say. They don't care about religious minorities in Syria, despite what they may say. And despite the fact that the evidence, Syria was 10% Christian, and those minorities were well protected under the Bashar al-Assad regimes over the past 50 years. But they don't care. The Western forces that are, and Eastern actually, so Israel and Turkey are up to their throats in this as well. They don't care about the things that they will profess to care about. And they basically funded Al-Qaeda, who, let's not forget, this was the group that did the September the 9/11, the Twin Towers in New York, killed 3,000 innocents in those attacks, which then went on to spark the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. Millions have died in those conflicts. But now they're being called in the Western media rebels, as if trying. I think what the propagandists are trying to do whenever they do that, they're trying to invoke images of plucky upstarts, like in Star Wars. I do genuinely think that. And these people are not that. They're Al-Qaeda. or ISIS are various rebrandings of. That's what they are. And I've seen some gruesome footage on my Twitter feeds over the past week of what they've been getting up to, dragging people through the streets and basically murdering people and what have you. But and these people, the rebels, such as they are in air quotes, are not from Syria. And at the end of the day, until someone can show me evidence of anything different, interventions by the West in other countries are a bad thing. And if that's not to excuse what goes on in those countries beforehand, but if the people of Syria want to overthrow Bashar al-Assad, then that's up to them. They should be doing it, because there's definitely no good going to come from the West intervening. Never has been. And then immediately, as soon as, and this is the thing. So and then to expand it out even further, the so-called rebels, I don't know what they're fucking branding as now, HTC or something, I can't remember, but you'll see it on they're terrorist. They're recognised as terrorists right now, and those those recognitions are being dropped in the West at the minute. I know it's going through the British Parliament, where they're going to recognise these people as legit, whereas just a week ago they were just an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, and the leader of them was a deputy leader in Al-Qaeda. And we know all this. I mean, this is not conspiracy stuff. This is, you can Wikipedia this. And as soon as, and also Al-Qaeda is funded by Israel and the CIA. We know that for a fact as well. And if there was any doubt as to who these people are, Israel has invaded Syria as of yesterday, according to the screen you can see here, reported by Alex Barneycoat. Israel has officially invaded Syria, and they're less than 20 kilometres away from Damascus. And these Al-Qaeda rebels, so-called rebels, have not fired one single bullet at the ADF. And here's the thread of everything you need to know, according to Alex Barneycoat. When did they launch the invasion? Just under 48 hours ago, Netanyahu gave the Israeli army the order to secure the border. On top of that, he told them to move into the buffer zone and control more Syrian land. So here's Satan himself.
Iran, Assad's main supporters. This is a historic day for the Middle East. The collapse of the Assad regime, the tyranny in Damascus, offers great opportunity, but also is fraught with significant dangers. This collapse is a direct result of our forceful action against Hezbollah and Iran, Assad's main supporters. It set off a chain reaction of all those who want to free themselves from this tyranny.
This is not a grassroots uprising. This is what's called, it was astroturf. That's a different. That's what so you've got grassroots and then you've astroturf from the top down. There may be people caught up in this. Syrians will go. It's an opportunity to replace, but what they're replace the regime, certainly, but what they're replacing it with is control by the West and now Israel. Syria has significant oil reserves and significant wheat production. The Americans controlled 1/3 of Syria. Did you know that? Syria was fully one third controlled by the US. And what third was that? The third with the oil and the wheat in it, as Jimmy Dore puts it often. Most Americans don't even know that. They don't know that they're actually occupying another country. Syria's fucked. It's going to be balkanized like Libya, like Ukraine is going to be as well.
And its suppression. But it also means we have to take action against possible threats. One of them is the collapse of the Separation of Forces Agreement from 1974 between Israel and Syria. This agreement held for 50 years. Last night it collapsed.
Right. So what what Netanyahu said there, the separation of forces agreement in 1974, that was an agreement, like a peace agreement, basically between Israel and Syria, which Israel repeatedly has broken. But regardless, he says last night it collapsed. So they invaded Syria. Last night it only collapsed because Israel decided to invade Syria. And they're bombing all around and they're destroying everything they can. They've destroyed the Syrian Air Force, such as it was, and any Syrian military infrastructure. It's all been destroyed. It hasn't collapsed. Israel broke it. But we know that they've got a peace deal going on with Lebanon at the minute too, and they broke that. They were breaking that while they were signing it. Back to Satan.
The Syrian army abandoned its positions. We gave the Israeli army the order to take over these positions to ensure that no hostile force embeds itself right next to the border of Israel. This is a temporary defensive position.
This is a temporary defensive position, suggesting he's going to give the land back. They're never giving this land back. This is the Greater Israel Project in full effect. That's what this is. They're taking the land and they're keeping it. That's it. They've had the Golan Heights illegally since fucking, I don't know how long that's been. Now they've got the full Golan Heights, or Golan Heights.
Until a suitable arrangement is found. Equally, we send a hand of peace to all those beyond our border in Syria. To the Druze,
fuck off.
To the Kurds,
fuck off.
To the Christians,
fuck
and to
off.
the Muslims who want to live in peace with Israel. We're going to follow events very...
Yeah. Peace. Israel is offering the hand of peace. Israel is the devil incarnate on earth today, if you believe in all that stuff. Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Palestine, Gaza Strip, West Bank, they're all being bombed simultaneously by Israel. They don't want peace. They're never interested in peace. They never have been. It just...
Very carefully, if we can establish neighborly relations and a peaceful relations with the new forces emerging in Syria, that's our desire. But if we do not, we'll do whatever it takes to defend the state of Israel and the border of Israel.
Burn in hell, you evil bastard. So back to what Alex Barnicoat says. Why has Israel done this? Netanyahu says this is to stop hostile forces establishing themselves on the border. No, it's not. It's a land grab. How much land has Israel taken so far? Israeli forces reached Kitana, about 20 kilometres from the capital of Damascus. Last night, Israel claimed to have conducted its largest air attack against Syria in history. It's a really huge deal. And, yeah, so... Is this guy... No. Oh, yeah. No, I think this guy's solid. Yeah. He's good. Alex Barnicoat, he's good. So, here's one from...
Okay,
going underground. So this is going out in Al Jazeera. So, I think this is Mehdi Hassan. And the question is, why aren't Al-Qaeda-linked jihadist groups in Syria fighting against Israel's invasion and the campaign to totally disarm Syria? So check it out.
Okay, you say no preference. There have been reports that Israel has been treating wounded Syrian rebel fighters in its hospitals on the border, including fighters from Nusra Front, which is, of course, the Al-Qaeda proxy in Syria. Do those reports worry you that Israel's helping wounded Al-Qaeda-aligned fighters?
As I said before, in a different context, it's always useful also to deal with the in a humane way. And I think that when you have people who are wounded and you can deal with them in a humane way, the considerations as to whether to take them in are not simply whether it's politically useful or whether it's politically
So it's purely humanitarian, you say. So there's no tactical or political strategic...
I didn't say there's no tactical. I said the main consideration, the immediate consideration is humane.
But the tactic...
So this man is saying, this man is the former head of Mossad, Ephraim Havili, And the answer to why aren't Al-Qaeda attacking the Israelis? Because Israel armed and supported them. Don't believe it. Here's the former head of Mossad admitting it. So, Mehdi Hassan is saying why there's reports of these injured fighters, the rebels, Al-Qaeda, being taken into Israeli hospitals. Why? Because they're fucking there, because the Israelis want them there. The Israelis put them there.
Political issues involved. I mean, you know better than me the phrase blowback. You don't think there's going to be blowback against Israel if you get into bed with a group like Nusra Front?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there's going to be blowback.
Why?
Because I think that, unfortunately, the rules of the game in Syria are such that you can do anything that is not possible to be done anywhere else.
Yeah, I think people said that in Afghanistan too. Would you also treat Hezbollah fighters?
No. I would not treat...
Have you not just contradicted what you told me 60
I've not
seconds ago
contradicted,
about humanely treating your enemies?
No. I think as far as Hezbollah fighters are concerned, with them we have a different account.
So let me be clear, you're happy to treat Al-Qaeda fighters, but not Hezbollah fighters?
We have a different account with Hezbollah, a totally different account, because Hezbollah has carried out the type of actions against us which preclude us from going into what the Al-Qaeda has done. Al-Qaeda, to the best of my recollection, has up to now not attacked Israel.
Yeah, why is that? Why is that then? Why has Al-Qaeda not attacked? Why has ISIS and ISIL, why do they only ever attack Muslim countries? No, Islamic State of Iran and Libya and Iraq and Syria. But why are they not... Yeah, don't tell me it's not fucking suspicious. So... there we go. And here is Lucas Gage, US veteran, with a black-pilled message to Muslims. I'm going to finish with this guy because I do like what he's saying here.
Palestinians are finished. Now they're completely fucked. Iran ain't going to do anything anymore. It's over. The Jews have defeated... It's the Middle East is theirs, I think. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, we're going to keep fighting. Nope. I think you're all fucked at this point. And you know what? Because you don't want to transcend your religion, you're going to get fucked. That's just the way it is. No one else is going to say that. Oh, no, Mr. Gage. We don't. No, you're fucked. You're fucked. Game over. Same thing with Europe. I mean, you look at us. We don't want to get over our white guilt in the Holocaust. We're fucked. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, this is going to be a great turnaround. Soon, the resistance is fucking destroyed. You know, the biggest problem, the Muslims, they don't understand the Jewish question. They think the Yahudim are just people that nope. And these ones who made a deal with them, they're about to get fucked up too.
Yep.
So hopefully Muslims learn that you cannot make deals with Jews. They'll learn. They're going to learn bad. And unfortunately, as Ben Shapiro said, you know, things are going to get ugly there. You know, Christians are going to, Christians, of course, Christians are going to get fucking massacred.
Only thing I would disagree with, you can't make deals with Zionists, Jews, not the same thing. And also, the reason that this resonates with me is because obviously I live in the north of Ireland and the religious divide was used against us for centuries, and it's the recognition that we need to come together as a working class that's going to save us. I genuinely believe that. So I'm going to finish with, let me just find on the Syrian. Oh, I need to find my bookmarks. Where am I? Here we are. There's a guy called General Wesley Clark. And I don't know if you've seen this, but this video, since Syria has collapsed, has been doing the rounds. And this is a tweet from Ben Norton, who's a great journalist. He says, Israel has invaded Lebanon. This come after the Lebanese invasion, but especially since the invasion of Syria this has definitely been doing the rounds. Israel has invaded Lebanon and is waging a colonial war of aggression supported wholeheartedly by the US government. What is their goal? Former US General and NATO Commander Wesley Clark revealed the Pentagon made plans to overthrow the governments of 7 countries in 5 years. Now check this out. If you haven't heard this before, this is fucking unbelievable stuff. And this is me. This guy's bona fides are unquestionable. He was anyway. Check it out.
Right after 9/11, about 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." I said, "Is it classified?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "Well, don't show it to me." And I saw him a year or so ago, and I said, "You remember that?" He said, "Sir, I didn't show you that memo. I didn't show it to you."
I'm sorry, what did you say his name was?
I'm not going to give you his name.
So go through the countries again?
Well, starting with Iraq, then Syria and Lebanon, then Libya, then Somalia and Sudan, and then back to Iran.
So, apart from Iran, job done. And here he is again. This is from 2007.
Nobody's going to tell. What happened in 9/11 is we didn't have a strategy, we didn't have bipartisan agreement, we didn't have American understanding of it, and we had instead a policy coup in this country. A coup. A policy coup. Some hard-nosed people took over the direction of American policy, and they never bothered to inform the rest of it.
So, you understand what he's saying there? There's been a policy coup. America wasn't couped, such as it is, but the policy, the direction of America was what they're going to do. There was a think tank called I can't remember the name, but they came up with a thing called the New American Century, and it was about for the 21st century for America. The Heritage Foundation, that was it, and the thing called the New American Century, and it's basically, without getting into the weeds, they're going to be in forever wars forever. They're just going to go to war, constantly at war, and you can see this. What happened in 9/11 was used as an excuse to invade Afghanistan and Iraq. Iraq had absolutely nothing to do with that. We know that. Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction, which is a ridiculous euphemism in and of itself, if you ask me. The Taliban were prepared to hand over. We saw the memos. They were prepared to hand over Osama bin Laden. All they needed was the evidence that he was involved. All they said was, "Give us some evidence that he was involved, and we'll hand him over." And they didn't want them. They wanted to invade. And what have we seen since then? They walked 20 years in Afghanistan. They walked to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. They walked out of it overnight, much to the chagrin and bemusement of the commander, the Afghani commander of Kabul Air Base, who was wakened by a 3 a.m. phone call to inform him that the Americans had left. And he thought it was a joke. He did say, "What do you mean they've left?" And they've left. And I said it at the time, somebody else is fucked. I didn't know it was going to be Ukraine. I didn't know it was going to be a European country, which has, me personally, the thing that has amazed me out of all of this is the connivance and the willingness of the leaders of the European Union, the European leaders, to go along with what could be a project to end peace in Europe. This is what the Ukraine war has the potential to be. And I'll get into that in a little second here. We'll talk about Georgia and Romania and how these things are all connected. And ever since 9/11, I don't know how many million it is now that's dead in Iraq. Again, another situation where Saddam Hussein was the CIA's man in the Middle East until he wasn't. Then he became the convenient enemy that they needed to do what? To go in and, again, just steal the resources, create chaos. Chaos always favours the establishment. Why we, as working class people, need to be organised. We need to be out. We can't out-war these people. We can't do it. It's impossible. But we need to out-organise them. We need to be organised. And ever since Libya's been destroyed, Lebanon is going to be next, because now Hezbollah, it was the Syrians and the Iraqis that were funding Hezbollah, who were the only legitimate resistance in Lebanon. Lebanon doesn't have an official army, such as it is. It doesn't have an air force or a navy or anything like that. It's a part of the conditions and restrictions that was placed on Lebanon by the West and by Israel after the last war. They have like an internal army for internal disputes, but they don't have an actual army. So if you're wondering why the official Lebanese army wasn't out fighting Israel when it invaded the southern border of Lebanon a few months ago now, a couple of months ago, and it was only Hezbollah that was fighting back, that was why there wasn't an army fit for purpose. And Hezbollah has been funded by Iran and supplied through Syria. So now Syria is cut off. The supply route to Hezbollah is cut off. That means Lebanon is fucked. Do you understand? Do you see what this is all about? Do you see the chess game that's going on? And so to continue the thought, ever since 9/11, Libya is gone. Now Syria is gone, Sudan has gone, Somalia has gone. Iran's the only one that's left, but it is increasingly isolated, and it's trying to join BRICS. It's got allegiances with China and Russia. China is famously non-interventionist. They will not get involved. It's a part of their cultural makeup, which is fair enough. I support it. Don't get involved in foreign countries. Let people do what they want. It's not your business. And I only say that it's not your business because interventionism, in the Western interventionism, means death and destruction. And you're going to have to go a long way to find me an example where I'm wrong. So, do you see what's happening here? So back to Wesley Clark. Let him finish his thought.
I went through the Pentagon 10 days after 9/11. I went back there to see Don Rumsfeld, and he said, I just want to tell you, he said, nobody's going to tell us where or when we can bomb. Nobody. He said, I'm thinking of calling this a floating coalition. And I went downstairs. I was leaving the Pentagon, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And I said, why? He said, we don't know. He said, I said, well, did they tie Saddam to 9/11? He said, no. Well, I walked out of there pretty upset. And then we attacked Afghanistan. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir. He says, it's worse than that. He pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office that says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. I said 7 countries in 5 years. I said, is that a classified memo? He said, yes, sir.
So, you get the point. Okay. The only one that's left standing Lebanon is there in theory, not for long. Watch this now. Lebanon's fucked. It's going. It's out of. It's going to be wiped off the chessboard, and then that's going to leave Iran. Now, it's taken much more than 5 years, but the point is still the same. It's still there. So that's kind of there's Craig. So there's Craig Murray. Craig Murray's a good one. Israel has just announced it's annexed more square kilometres of Syria and launched hundreds of bombing attacks on Syria's military and civilian infrastructure. This is from the other day. Without the new regime in Syria firing one single shot against Israel. In the UK, Liberal Democrats like Owen Jones and Salafists like Five Pillars UK, I don't know who that is, UK-based site, news site covering current affairs, okay, still refused to accept the coup was organised by Israel and the USA despite overwhelming evidence. And that's why they can't be trusted. The fucking Liberals do my head in. They fucking do my fucking head clean in. So there we go. It's an absolute fucking disaster. It really is a disaster. And then I'm going to show you. So now, to connect all this up, there's a couple of different things going on here. Georgia has had, there's a coup attempt, very, very similar to what happened in Ukraine, going on right now. The Maidan, after the Maidan massacres, and then the, Poroshenko, President Poroshenko, who was the elected president, who, by the way, this is something that I found, only found this out recently. Shit, I had this bookmarked, I don't know where it is. God damn it. Let me see if I can find this for you. And what it was related to was, I have it bookmarked somewhere and I don't know where it is. I've just remembered that I actually have it. No, I'm not even going to look for it. I'll just explain it to you. So one of the things that I did not know, that I did not realise, so after the coup 2016, you had the Maidan massacre in Ukraine, sparks the whole coup thing. Eventually, Zelensky comes into power on a peace ticket. And Poroshenko was replaced because he was making nicey with Moscow. Now, here's the reason why I didn't know this. I only found this out. Poroshenko needed inward investment, and he was offered a $15 billion dollar loan from the World Bank. Now, what that is a noose around your neck, because in order for you to get the loan from the World Bank, you have to agree to certain changes domestically, and that means inevitably turning over public infrastructure over to the bankers, the banking class, the banksters. So it would in many cases it's things like handing over the control of water, handing over the control of healthcare, things like that to be privatised. Meanwhile, on the other side of the coin, Putin offered the same money, $15 billion, with no conditions, no domestic policy. Russia didn't want anything for it. It was a goodwill loan. Take it, pay the loan back. Let's be buddies. That was the terms of the loan. And that was what caused the coup. So Poroshenko was going in the direction of Moscow because the two loans that he had on the table, one of them clearly was not in the interests of his country and his people, and the other one was. And that's not to... By the way, I'm not trying to whitewash who he was. We know he was a corrupt asshole, but he wasn't any more corrupt than the fucking asshole that's there now. That's for sure. So I didn't realise that. So now Ukraine is a fucking disaster. You've got the Middle East is completely on fire. Ukraine is a lost cause, really. Russia can do what it wants at the minute, as far as it looks like in Ukraine. So NATO, the CIA, and the forces that are involved, military-industrial complex, are trying to open up other fronts. And Romania and Georgia have turned out to be the two likely candidates. So here's what's happening in Georgia, according to Midwestern marks, and I agree. Watch again.
Are you coming to the tree?
So I keep seeing these protest videos out of Georgia doing crazy numbers. I mean, just insane views. So let me explain from my perspective what's actually going on here. Well, for starters, Georgia is ranked second to Texas in the SEC. Hold on, I believe this is the wrong Georgia. Yes, here's the Georgia we're looking for, right next to Russia. Ooh, scary bad. And recently, the Georgian government has been developing stronger relations with Russia, which the US has punished them for pretty harshly, putting sanctions on government officials and suspending military support, which is pretty rare. Georgia has been very pro-Western since the Soviet Union fell, and they elected this guy, an ultra-nationalist whose name I'm not even gonna try. Zavid Gamshukaduka. But the 2024 elections were dominated by the Georgian Dream Party, who are populists that support stronger ties with Russia. You can see here they won almost 54% of the vote, with the second place party getting only 10.8. And it's these parties who are either liberal and pro-Western or nationalist and pro-Western who are backing the protests. So basically, they're protesting the fact that they lost the election and for stronger ties with the EU and NATO rather than Russia. Kinda makes sense for them to work with Russia though, like they're right there. But anyways, both China and Georgia have accused the notorious National Endowment for Democracy of both funding and helping to organize these protests, which they did in Ukraine when their government was moving towards a more friendly posture with Russia. And wouldn't you know it, their government ended up getting toppled. And oh, by the way, Victoria Nuland, the architect of modern US-Ukraine policy, just got hired to the National Endowment for Democracy, whose specialty in the past, by the way, has been creating social media propaganda. I mean, you gotta admit, this is pretty genius, portraying the protesters as Romeo and Juliet. They knew that was gonna blow up on TikTok. Probably didn't even need bots to boost that or anything. You got them using identity politics to garner support, which is a staple of liberal color revolutions in East Europe because it's so effective. I don't know that Georgia's government will be toppled like what happened in Ukraine, because right now the protesters are mostly liberals. And ultimately, it was the nationalist extremists who escalated the protests in Ukraine into a full-on coup. From what I understand, Georgia doesn't have as big of an ultra-nationalism problem as what Ukraine had. The only Georgia I simp for is my bulldogs. Let's go. Roo, roo.
So, Victoria Nuland, if Benjamin Netanyahu is Satan, then Victoria Nuland is his fucking ma. Evil cunt. She's the one that engineered the shit show in Ukraine. So let's lean into now Romania. So let's hear what's happened in Romania. And here's Che Bowes, who's an Irishman living in Moscow, actually. Remarkably, the anti-war Romanian leading the presidential race has been barred from standing after already winning the first round. EU and NATO values and democratic...
I just want to be clear, you're saying that some European leaders and NATO officials came together to put pressure on the Romanian establishment to stop your campaign because they don't want peace.
Exactly. They need war. And they're looking only for war. The Constitutional Court of Romania, I want to be very clear from now, is a mafia court of Romania. Because they cannot accept, and 9 people, because the court is a function of 9 people. 9 people decide for 19 million of people. This is not accept. This does mean coup d'etat, made by the state, which is installed right now in power in Romania. But the power has only Romanian people and our soul. It's impossible to change this. This is for sure. We don't give up. We don't stay just to wait what they are doing. And I'm absolutely convinced that this situation will be changed very, very soon.
So, in Romania, an election was annulled based on the unfounded allegations of Russian interference. A chilling example of how fabricated foreign interference campaigners are used by the EU NATO establishment to actually interfere in elections. And there's a big article there, judicial coup in Romania. I'm not going to read it because I'm going to try and tie all this. You understand? You see what's happening here? These things are all connected. And they're using the same playbook. We're seeing the same thing. These fake colour revolutions that happened across the Muslim world a number of years ago. It's the same thing. And then the Maidan coup that happened in 2014 in Ukraine. The thing that's happening in Georgia is being linked. It looks very similar. It looks like exactly the same thing. But as the commentator Midwestern Marks told us, there's not the same ultranationalists in Georgia as there was in Ukraine to be used as the jackhammer to break that wall down. So you see, all this is it's all happening for what? It's all happening to cause chaos. Chaos favours the establishment. Who is the establishment? The establishment at the minute is the Biden administration. They're doing all this. They're on their way out. They're trying to cause as much chaos. A part of what they're trying to do, it's not the sole reason why they're trying to do it. A part of what they're trying to do is cause chaos for the incoming Trump administration. Give him as many headaches as possible to deal with, and also to continue to open up new fronts for war and chaos for the military-industrial complex, to empty the taxpayers' bank accounts, the bank account of the taxpayers into their bank accounts. And that's all this is. That's what this is. And they're vile monsters, and they're prepared to see millions die in order to do it. In fact, even worse than that, billions. They're prepared to bring the world to the brink of World War III, nuclear annihilation. It will be short. That is the one thing that we have to be thankful for. If World War III does happen, it'll not last long. Russia has changed its nuclear doctrine, what it does in response to threats using nuclear weaponry. It's changed it in response to all of this. We're now closer to the doomsday clock is closer to midnight than it's ever been. Mere seconds away. They're not talking about this in the fucking news, which is nuts to me. And one of the bizarre things that it's one of the does not compute things that we have to think about, which constantly and consistently causes me to fucking scratch my head. All I've been told for 20 years or whatever, like the time Putin's been in power, that he was a madman. Well, not right at the beginning, but shortly after, when it became apparent that he was putting Russia's interests first, as he should, as the president of Russia, that he's a madman, he's a psycho, he's a lunatic, he's a dictator, he's dying of all sorts of different types of cancer, so he doesn't care. He's got no regard for life. He doesn't care about anything other than himself. He's worth billions and trillions, and he's all every lie, piece of pathetic bullshit propaganda known to man has been reflected upon him. But we're relying on this fucking psychopath to not. We're antagonising this psychopath, but we're also relying on him to not respond. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make, just on the face of it, it doesn't compute. This is the world that we're living in. And now Georgia and Romania, thank God, have the common sense that Germany doesn't have, that Britain doesn't have, that France doesn't have, that Italy doesn't have, that Finland doesn't have, joining fucking NATO in order to be safe, and now they're fucking doing air raid drills with their population. It's fucking insane. Thank God Georgia and Romania seem to have a bit more sense, that they're able to look at what happened in Ukraine and go, that's not happening to us. Now, these fucking ghouls won't give up. The eye of Sauron is upon them, and I wish them all the luck. And the same to the Lebanese and to the poor Syrians. And that's the other thing as well. I touched upon it right at the very beginning of this. We're going to end up with a migrant crisis, and put in air quotes. Thousands and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Syrians and soon to be Lebanese and Palestinians, if they can get out, are going to be coming to Europe, and we're going to be complaining about it. I say we, as in us as a collective. I'm putting all our eggs in that basket. We're going to be moaning about it like fuck, and no one is going to ask the question, why are they coming here? Again, it's another nail I'm never done hammering with this podcast. Why are these people coming here? Well, look at what's happening in the Middle East at the minute. That's why they're coming here. And why are we not doing anything about it? I don't get the disconnect. I don't understand. I get it, not everybody's involved in politics like me and you. But I don't understand how the wee woman doing her groceries in Tesco's on a fucking Saturday morning looks at someone wearing a hijab and maybe has a racist thought, or God forbid says or does something racist towards her, thinks that they shouldn't be here, and cannot make the connection between the bombs that we're paying for with our tax dollars, tax pounds, tax euros, are being used to displace that woman and her family, or worse, kill them, forcing them to flee elsewhere. And then they live as fucking refugees, which is horrible. You live in a state of non-statehood, a state of non-existence, a state of non-personage for years until you're either accepted or rejected, in which case you're sent. You then end up in a legal quagmire, being sent back to a place that probably doesn't fucking exist anymore. It just drives me fucking insane. I don't get it. People complaining about 70,000 to 100,000 refugees coming here from Ukraine, and rightly so. But they're not complaining because they're here, because they should be helped. They're not making the connection as to why they're having to move from where they were to where they are. There's no connection. There's no mental link. Like, why are they coming? They just go, we don't want them. None of these fucking brain-dead bastards thinks to themselves, we don't want them. But why are they coming? It's bizarre. It's nuts. The Ukrainian government is now being urged to drop the age of conscription to 18. Now that means that tens of thousands, I don't know how many Ukrainian 18-year-olds there are still left in Ukraine. Tens of thousands of them are now going to be evacuated by their parents in order to avoid them becoming meat in the fucking meat grinder that is the battlefront with Russia. And they're going to be pushed into Germany and Italy and France and UK and Ireland, and we're going to accept them. And then our racists and fucking idiots aren't going to ask the question, why are they here? Can you blame those parents for saying, no, Sergey, offity fuck? Get you to your cousin in England, get you to your cousin in the Netherlands, get you to your cousin in Germany. Of course you can't. You do it yourself. The answer to it is stop the fucking wars. Completely fucking mental. Mental. Right. There's the theme music for that one. We're going to hit this next one real quick because I really went over my what I said I was going to do with that one. But this is an interesting story, and we're going to have a quick read at an article. I'm going to show you a thing or two. So, For those of you that do not know, last week something very dramatic happened in Manhattan, New York. Serge, a person shot dead. The chief executive called Brian Thompson of UHC, which is a company called United Healthcare, spoke about it at the start. They provide health insurance in the famously awful American healthcare system. That healthcare system that no other country in the world wants to adopt, apart from the United Kingdom, it seems to me. And the suspect has been taken into custody, and it's a dude here called Luigi Mangione. So here is an article from Jacobin. Luigi Mangione's anger wasn't neatly ideological, and the reason to point that out, I won't show you the video, you can go and find it yourself, but there is security footage of it happening. The right wing tried to blame it on like some ultra leftists, right? Bloody left. So the Ben Shapiro's and all those gubs on sticks all blamed it. And then there was a lot of lefty wingy people calling him a MAGA chud. Things like that. It's not the way he is. Here's his actual. This is his actual Twitter account. His real one. This is it here. I've got it on screen. By the way, those of you that are listening to this, you can go and watch this video. And it is kind of all over the place ideologically. I would say he's just a normal American 26. This guy's 26. He's talking here about, he posted a picture of a book, The Anxious Generation. Which is true. He's talking about drugs. And about how America is being drugged. He talks about the American food industry, which is the big issue at the minute, given RFK's new appointment in the Trump administration, make America healthy again, which is, if they manage to do that, isn't that wonderful? And talks a bit about Christianity. Christianity's decline has released terrible new gods, new atheism, etc. Now, whether you agree with it or not, I'm just showing you this as to illustrate that the headline, that it wasn't as politically all the way one or the other. Well, I do think he was probably quite right wing, but not just, just doesn't it fit neatly into the box. And the point of that is, none of us do. You may be socially conservative, but you might be economically socialist. This is the world. This is what we need to do. Need to come together. But I'm going to show you this little skit, and this is for people that are watching this rather than people that are listening. But it's funny as fuck. I'm not going to explain it. So, it's a legacy media. I will explain it. The skit is it's legacy media choosing the headline: Meet Venezuela's transgender ketamine dealers. And how he chooses that is he throws those dildos with the sucker pad at the bottom and there's a box, poor country, and the first one lands in Venezuela. Then there's another box, minority, and he throws another dildo and it hits transgender. And then there's another box, drug, and it lands on ketamine. And then there's vice, meet ketamine's transgender ketamine dealers. It's true. So that's what by showing you that's what I meant to explain. So here's the article, and I'll give this one a go. The profile background of Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson last week, is coming into sharper and sharper focus. For one, after days of speculation, we can now more confidently say the motive was healthcare related. Beyond the words deny, defend and depose written on the bullet shell casings found at the scene. Now, that was a book. That was the name of a book about the healthcare system. denied defend the pose. Mangione had a 2-page statement on his person when he was arrested, which complained that the US has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy, and that the companies like United Healthcare have simply gotten too powerful and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit. I don't think any of that can be denied. A number of irresponsible voices have jumped on details like this to declare that he is a leftist and even clearly a fan of Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Mangione had gripes with the US healthcare system and private insurers. The left criticised both of those things, ergo he must be of the left. This seems to be the extent of the sophistication going on in the analysis, but scarring of Mangione's digital footprint show the reality is very different and much more interesting. Far from a stereotype of a Zoomer leftist radicalised to violence by BreadTube and Sanders that obsesses with the conservative imagination, Mangione appears to have been, like many Americans, someone with a hodgepodge of views and political beliefs that don't neatly map onto any one category on the political spectrum. All too many atomised Americans have taken up arms and carried out shocking acts of violence over the past decades, usually without anything more than the desire to harm and kill for their own sake. Mangione might be a sign of something new, a political moderate with no movement behind him, no history of activism and no strong ideology, seemingly radicalised by a failing system and led to believe murder is the way to fix it. Swing voter as shooter. If you wanted, you could cherry pick your way through the digital trail Mangione left behind him to make his politics look like whatever you'd like. Want him to be a left-winger? You could point out to the part of his now inaccessible Goodreads account where he liked a Kurt Vonnegut quote about how poor Americans are urged to hate themselves, and where he professed interest in reading Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow, the autobiography of Malcolm X. You could even underline his distaste for Jordan Peterson, who he said had overcomplicated everything he says aloud, wasting everyone's mental bandwidth and having to decipher it. Want him to be a radical environmentalist? Highlight his 5-star rating of Dr. Seuss's environmental tale, The Lorax. His interest in reading climate crisis books like The Merchants of Doubt, How to Avoid Climate Disaster. Or his retweets noting coal's contribution to climate change and celebrating the acquittal of animal rights activists who stole piglets from a farm. Prefer him as a libertarian tech bro? Well, there are many tweets and retweets about artificial intelligence, AI, that reflect both awe and concern about emerging technology. There is presence of a fawning biography of Elon Musk on his favourite books list, his retweeting of a Peter Thiel talk, or his interest in books about Steve Jobs startups, as well as Atlas Shrugged, the Ayn Rand book. You might also look to his retweet of an endorsement of billionaire philanthropy, his passion for cellular agriculture, an unreal opportunity for retail investors, or his retweet of a thread changing that ancient Rome fell because it became an unsustainable welfare state, turning much of the population into entertainment-addicted parasites. If you like to pin his actions on the men's rights movement, you could selectively single out a few different data points. Mangione wanted to read of Boys and Men, why the modern male is struggling, why it matters and what to do about it, and retweeted things that could be read as overlapping with that movement, tweets charging that toxic masculinity is a harmful myth, lamenting that it is sad that the question of are men important can't be answered with a simple yes, and affirming that men are made for impossible situations, daring feats, born with heroes' hearts, which society is trying hard to quash. You could also pin it on the politics of right-leaning podcasts popular with young men. Mangione was into working out. He certainly fucking was. He has a six-pack you could grate cheese on. And wellness. He seemed passionate about psilocybin, magic mushrooms. I concur. and other mind-altering substances, was a fan of controversial science and podcaster Andrew Huberman, often accused by liberals of being, among other things, spreading pseudoscience and anti-vaccine sentiment, and seemed to be generally against COVID lockdown policies. For instance, he retweeted a story about Chinese people rebelling against their country's zero COVID terror state and reasserting their human dignity in the face of the most dehumanising machine of control in the world today. And for those who like to paint them as a more traditional right-wing reactionary, there's material for you too. Mangione frequently tweeted and retweeted things critical of wokeness, was a fan of New York University professor Jonathan Haidt, don't know who that is, author of Cuddling the American Mind, a critique of cancel culture, and was among Mangione's want-to-read list. Mein Kampf also pops up on that list if you're feeling particularly ungenerous. Then again, you could easily peg him as something more in the middle of the road. I believe this book will go down in history as the most important philosophical text of the early 21st century. Mangione tweeted about Tim Urban's What's Our Problem, something of a centrist manifesto, arguing that tribalism caused by the takeover of political parties and their extremes is a fundamental problem of our era, etc., etc. So, Mangione, it turns out, has a whole mess of different political opinions, at least as far as we can piece together right now, that make it hard to place him on the typical political compass. He seems to have felt passionately for health and fitness and hallucinogens, an alarm at the dopamine addicting effects of modern technology and social media. He expressed a not untroubled interest in the emerging technology of AI. He expressed a dislike of wokeness and concern about climate change and food quality, and ultimately a hatred of a rapacious health insurance industry. His all over the map politics are, in other words, those of a fairly normal American and a fairly normal human being. Maybe not on those particular issues specifically, but you know, we're not as simple as just I'm a leftist, therefore I agree with all of these things. You may agree with them to a certain point or to a certain degree. In other ways, you may completely back away from. I don't agree with absolutely everything. I'm a people before profit, as you know. I don't agree with absolutely everything, 100%. I have questions. Back to the article. More to the point, he is a normal American who seems to have had his own personal experience with that widely loathed industry. A number of individuals who knew Mangione have now told news outlets he suffered from serious back pain. Me and you, brother. And his Twitter X banner is an X-ray of what is presumably his spine. Several of the books he listed as wanting to read are Healing Back Pain, Back in Control, Do You Really Need Spine Surgery, among others. Could that be, so I'm going to skip forward. Could that be what caused them to kill the dude? The health insurers are parasites, and that murder he committed had to be done as a way of effacing. So we're speculating now. So, final paragraph, something new. We need to think of political violence as being committed by zealots, radicals on an extreme end of the other half of the political spectrum, whose ideology leads them to carry out acts most people would never contemplate. Shooting, bombing, to advance the goals of a movement or a group. But we're starting to see in the 21st century American violence carried out not by ideological extremists, but by individuals with the profile of your typical swing voter. Now that's the point. That's the point. Where have the mainstream political parties gone? Wherever they have gone, be it to the right or to the left, and none of them have gone left, they've all gone right, they have abandoned the voter. The 21-year-old who nearly killed Donald Trump was similarly alone and all over the political map, donating to a pro-democratic PAC on the day of Joe Biden's inauguration before registering as a Republican 8 months later. His classmates remembered him as having neither strong political opinions or being a staunch conservative. The Congressional Task Force investigating his attempted assassination still has no idea why he did what he did. It remains to be seen If this ends up being a wider trend of non-ideological Americans becoming radicalised and taking up arms to further some kind of political goal detached from any wider movement, if so, you can't help suspect it's a measure of the frustration and hopelessness that every recent US election result seems to highlight, of an unfair and corrupt system that Americans know and feel is failing them, but seems stubbornly immune to change no matter how they vote or organise. That word again, organise. We need to be organised. We need to out-organise the state. It's very difficult, I know. Not saying it's easy. So, isn't that interesting? Now, for people like me, it's obvious what the problem is. The problem has always been the same. The problem is economics. It's always been economics. We want to take care of our trans brothers and sisters. Well, we need to give them a good healthcare system, mental health services, etc., etc. We want to take care of everybody. We need to make sure that our food system is fit for purpose. We want to give people good outcomes. We want to make sure that they've got good mobility through the system. It's all economics, baby. It's all money. That's what all of this is about. Everything is about that. And for us to be able to get on with the things that we want to do, like me, just make music and make art, those other systems have to be, the economic system has to be right. It has to be pointed at the working class, of which I am and of which you are and of which the majority are. It's very simple. That's why whenever I hear people say, politics is complicated. It really isn't. They want you to think it's complicated so that you don't engage. But it's not complicated. I promise you it's not. So here's just on the deny, defend, depose. Remember the thing? Now, they found 3 bullets, the shell casings, and three of the shell casings had deny, defend, depose written on, each bullet had one of those words written on it. And Amazon has had to take Free Luigi merch down and all that sort of stuff. So the Deny, Defend, Depose is actually a book. So Amazon has been forced to repeatedly remove merchandise sympathetic to United Healthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione alleged. So as it stands, emblazoned with the phrases Deny, Defend, Depose, which gunman allegedly scribbled onto the bullet casings and Free Luigi merch. So, I'm letting you know that because of the bias, or because of the sympathies that the average American is having. Wherever this story is popping up on social media, Americans are not saying, "Oh, isn't that terrible, he shot him?" They're not doing that at all. Quite the opposite. They're in full sympathy with Luigi Mangione. Now, just so you understand, there is a graph on screen and you can see health insurance claim denial rates in network for 2024. So this is current data. United Healthcare is sitting at 33%. They're the biggest, one of the biggest companies and the biggest denier of claims. That's a full 1/3. I'm going to, for those of you that aren't from America, which is all of you, I assume, I'm going to show you what that means. Down here at the bottom is a company called Kaiser at 6% denial. Then Celtic at 13%. I don't know. Obviously, Blue Cross, I've heard of that. Anthem, I've heard of that, 18%. So I think the average, I believe, is 16%. But United Healthcare is way above the rest at 33%. Now, what that means, and if you read these replies, I had a stroke. Here's a tweet. Queen Anne of Hedonia, Ms. Bet Noir. I had a stroke and United Healthcare moved me from the top stroke centre in the state to another hospital because the ER I went to was out of network. My doctor made them wait until I was out of the ICU. They refused to cover the ambulance and they made me take to the other hospital. So she had a stroke, brought to the hospital. The hospital wasn't in the network of United Healthcare hospitals that they work with, but the doctor that she was treating, she was being treated by, refused to move her until she was out of the intensive care unit, then sent her to the other hospital that United Healthcare wanted her to go to, and they refused to pay for under her health insurance, refused to pay for the ambulance. Here's another one. United Healthcare repeatedly denied claims for chemotherapy and other cancer-related treatments for my mom. So yeah, fuck them and fuck the profit healthcare. This dead CEO is getting more coverage than United Healthcare ever provided. Boom. Here's another. David Forum. Finding out that United Healthcare coded my friend giving birth to her child as medically unnecessary. Every single person with any meaningful decision-making capacity there deserves whatever happens. United Healthcare has the highest claim denial rate of any insurance company in the US, if anyone's curious about motive. And we'll read a few more of these because they're... Remembering the day, Natalie Holm Ellsberg says, remembering the day United Healthcare denied a one-night hospital stay for my 12-year-old as medically unnecessary following an ASD heart repair surgery. Fuck me. Got a push notification to exercise caution because United Healthcare shooter is still at large. I personally do not feel like I am on the shooter's radar because I'm not the CEO of a highly divisive multi-billion-dollar insurance company. So that was the thing. There was a lot of people doing a lot of pearl clutching. People, in New York. Oh my God, the shooter is still out there. Ooh, you have to be careful. We're going to do. He might get us next. Are you the fucking CEO of his healthcare provider? You're probably going to be fine. United Health. Here's one part of the people, proud socialist. Oh, I follow this guy. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was fatally shot in New York City today. I will not shed one tear for the CEO of a greedy insurance company. Instead, I weep for every person who has died, of which there are many, due to the lack of healthcare, and for the 100 million Americans saddled with medical debt. Now, I could go on reading those all day. Now, one of the things that you must understand, even though you say, Andy, that's very, very cruel. And there's an article from CNN Business. Killing of United Healthcare CEO prompts flurry of stories on social media over denied claims. So just similar to what I've been telling you. Social media backlash almost immediately after the news that Thompson had been killed. Social media users began posting their frustrations with United Healthcare and other insurance companies. They denied my surgery 2 days before it was scheduled. I was in the hospital finance office in tears. My mother was flying out to see me. Surgeons spent a day and a half pleading my case to United when she probably should have been taking care of her other patients. She added before saying the surgery ended up going ahead, but calling the process torture. My breast cancer surgery was denied by a different insurance company, actually the breast cancer. She asked me, well, is it an emergency? She says, I don't know. It's a fucking cancer. What do you think? I had to appeal, and luckily it went through. So, now, again, I could go on reading those all day. But one of the things that you must understand, under this man's tenure, he introduced AI. An artificial intelligence algorithm to determine whether you were going to get and that's why those claim denials have gone up to 33% under his tenure. This man was no saint. Now, I am not happy someone got killed, but I am good. I'm I've no sympathy that it was him, because this disconnect between fiduciary duty of a CEO of a corporation and being placed above the physical well-being of your customers, and that's a disgrace right there. These people shouldn't exist. And this is where we're headed, by the way. Make no mistake. And it'll probably be fucking worse in America, because if we can do it, we'll do it worse. So here's an article from Neoscope. Just over a year before United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was murdered this week in Midtown Manhattan, a lawsuit filed against the insurance giant claimed he held, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze, revealed how draconian its claims denying process had become. Last November, the estates of two former UHC patients filed suit in Minnesota alleging that the insurer used an AI algorithm to deny and override claims to elderly patients that have been approved by their doctors. The algorithm in question, known as NH Predict, allegedly had a 90% error rate, and according to the families of the two deceased men who filed the suit, UHC knew it. Do you remember the film Fight Club? Whenever Edward Norton's character, Jack, is explaining to someone on the plane what it is that determines whether a car, for example, that's consistently in accidents, gets recalled. They basically take the math of what it's going to cost to recall the cars and fix the component versus the number of people likely to die and how much they're going to have to pay out in lawsuits, and they do a balance. If one is lesser than the other, they'll do the recall, and if it's not, they'll just let the people die. That's what this is. They know 90%, the 90% error rate that UHC knew the AI algorithm was doing it's a math, it's a sum, it's a maths. Does this lead to greater shareholder return versus the people that die are going to sue us? Well, if it does, then the people are going to have to die. That's what this is. That's why this is not a light touch industry. It's not benign. It's not providing a service. It's denying a service. They don't make their money by providing healthcare. They make their money by not providing healthcare. Back to the article. As the lawsuits made its way through the courts, anger regarding the massive insurer's predilection towards denying claims has only grown, and speculation about the assassin's motive suggests that he may have been among those upset at UHC's coverage. Though we don't know yet the identity of the person, we do now at the time of the writing of the article they didn't, who shot Thompson, nor his reasoning. Reports claim that he wrote the words "deny, defend and depose" in the shell casings of the bullets used to shoot the CEO, a message that makes it sound a lot like the killers aggrieved against the insurance industry's aggressive denials of coverage to sick patients. Beyond the shooter's own motives, it is clear from the shockingly celebratory reaction online to Thompson's murder that the anger about the American insurance and healthcare system has reached the point of literal bloodlust. As the American Prospect so aptly put it, only about 50 million customers of America's reigning medical monopoly might have a motive to exact revenge upon the United Healthcare CEO. That's a frightening number, isn't it? Only about 50 million customers of America's reigning medical monopoly might have a motive to exact revenge upon the CEO. And the alarming cruelty of the claims around the company's AI algorithm, we asked the company whether it is still using, but received no immediate reply, perfectly illustrates why they are so angry. And there's another article there in Quartz. I'm not going to read it because it basically just covered it. And there we are. Now, the final piece of this story is Luigi Mangione was turned in by a worker in McDonald's. He got out of the state. He was only a few hundred kilometres away. And he was touted on by a worker in McDonald's where he called in, presumably to get some food. He was taken into custody this morning at a Pennsylvania McDonald's, caught with a manifesto that appeared to list the grievances with the healthcare industry. He's not yet been charged, and there's pictures of him, etc., etc., etc. Now, I'm going to say this: touts out Loose lips sink ships. Right? This McDonald's has been bombarded with 1-star reviews, by the way, in real life. Obviously, that's all it's going to. I hope that's all that's going to happen. There's no sympathy for the man that was murdered. And he was murdered in cold blood. He's a father, he's a husband, he's a father of 2 kids. Doesn't matter. There's no sympathy. People don't care. They're done. They're done with this. They do not care. He's the hero. And no amount of media spin is going to turn this round, simply because of the math of the number of people that understand why he would want to do this is too overwhelming. Millions upon millions upon millions, as I heard a commentator say, the people that are you hear them simping on social media, saying that it was a terrible thing and that they're happy with their healthcare. The reply to them is, yeah, that's because you've never had to use it. Try and use it, then come back and say you're happy with it. It's a nightmare from what I can understand. I've heard many, many testimonies from various people across the political spectrum, and it is universally hated. It drives people insane at best and kills them at worst. Saddles them with medical debt and bankruptcies. America is the only country in the world where medical bankruptcy is a thing. Try using the thing, then come back and say you're happy with it. You won't be. End of story. Now, this worker squealed on him. They recognised him from the security camera footage. They assumed, I don't know how they recognised him, obviously I wasn't there, and dropped the dime, made the phone call. This worker clearly doesn't understand class politics. They're working in fucking McDonald's, making minimum wage, no doubt. Probably make 2 or 3 jobs, 1 or 2 jobs at least. It's mad interesting. There's no sympathy. Is this the start of it? Is this the revolution? Is this it? Is this the day it all changed? When someone went out and shot the CEO of one of the most hated industries in America? Is this it? Apparently, personal protection for CEOs is now they're now hiring personal protection officers. Here's a little tweet. Luigi Mangione's manifesto refers to the Michael Moore Sicko documentary on the for-profit US healthcare system. In one part of it, Moore takes abandoned 911 first responders to Cuba to get healthcare there, to show just how sick and depraved the US is by comparison. And there's the footage of it there. And if you haven't watched that documentary, you should. Michael Moore Sicko. It's absolutely fucking breathtaking. Terrifying, but breathtaking. So there we go. That's the pod. We're done. Hope you're all well. I'm going to call this. It's been going on for far too long. I should have been done ages ago. I'm going to have a guest on soon. I'm going to have Darren Matthews. He's going to join me, and we're going to talk over the issues of the day. North Armagh, South Armagh, you know what I mean? About the new rules in the GAA and all that sort of stuff. No doubt we'll make an appearance. Last shout, there's Madrid is sold out for Saturday. Sold out. Jack Hewlett sold out Saturday night, but there might be a couple of tickets. So if you want, let me know. And at the minute, the Hunger for Justice Palestine, I am only 5 hours into my fast, and it's lunchtime. And just during the middle of this podcast, I started to get hungry. Ooh. It's all good though. Not a bother. No complaints. It's all going to be done. It's all good. politics, culture, and some other shit. Patreon. Buy me a coffee, £1, 1 tier only. You know the crack. See us on the other side, amigos.